The Security Council chamber descended into controlled chaos. Armed guards formed a perimeter around the alien while diplomatic aides whispered urgently into secure phones. The alien's translucent exoskeleton trembled visibly under the harsh fluorescent lights. 30 days, Secretary General Okafor repeated, her voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. And you expect us to believe your civilization voted almost unanimously to exterminate us, yet here you are, warning us. Zix-Troll's compound eyes shifted nervously between the armed guards. Self-preservation, perhaps. My species specializes in probability mapping. I ran my own projections. The alien's translator device produced a voice that was unnervingly human, despite the clicking mandibles that moved beneath it. The Concordat's attack has a 98.3% chance of success, but the 1.7% alternative. The alien shuddered. If humans survive, your retribution would be biblical, to use your terminology. Russian Ambassador Petrov stood, straightening his jacket. So you're not here out of kindness, but fear of failure. No, Zix-Troll's skin rippled with pulses of deeper red. I came because the vote was wrong. 316 species in the Concordat have never experienced war within their own kind. They've evolved through cooperation and consensus. They cannot understand what humans understand intuitively. And what's that? Asked the French representative. That peace is more valuable to those who comprehend war's true cost. The alien's limbs moved in a complex gesture that the translator didn't interpret. I study your species more thoroughly than the others. You call yourselves Homo sapiens, wise man. The Concordat sees only your capacity for destruction. I see that you've wielded that same capacity to build systems that prevent destruction. The Chinese ambassador laughed bitterly. You overestimate our wisdom, ambassador. We still fight among ourselves. Yet you're all sitting in this room, Zix-Troll countered. Species who have killed each other for resources, territory, ideology, now cooperating. The Concordat took 10,000 years to achieve what you've done in mere centuries. General Williams of the American Joint Chiefs stepped forward. This data core you've brought, what exactly does it contain? Everything, Zix-Troll said simply. Fleet specifications, Concordat defensive capabilities, biological profiles of all member species, communications protocols. The alien's voice dropped lower, and the classified research that led to the extermination boat. A tense silence filled the chamber. You've committed treason, Secretary General Okafor observed. Yes, the alien's bioluminescence dimmed to a dull pulse. In Concordat law, the penalty is genetic dissolution. My ancestral line will be erased from existence. No one spoke for several long moments. Finally, the Secretary General nodded to the security team. Take Ambassador Zix-Troll to Secure Facility Geneva. Highest diplomatic protocols. She turned to the alien. We'll need to verify everything you've told us. Of course, Zix-Troll rose shakily. But may I suggest haste? The Concordat believes humans dangerous because you've developed nuclear weapons, space travel, and rudimentary AI in mere centuries. Developments that took them millennia. They fear what you'll accomplish in the next 50 years. As the guards escorted Zix-Troll out, the alien turned back. The attack fleet departed 3 days ago under communications blackout. They won't know I've warned you. That's your only advantage. The doors closed behind them, leaving the Security Council in stunned silence. Get me the heads of every space agency and defense department, the Secretary General ordered. And someone find me Major Sarah Chen. If we're facing an interstellar threat assessment team, we need our best xenocultural specialist. Outside, as Zix-Troll was led to an armored vehicle, the alien gazed up at Earth's blue sky with all 4 eyes. The decision to betray the Concordat had been calculated, yes, but not entirely logical. Something about these contradictory humans had awakened a trait long suppressed in Concordat species, curiosity about the road not taken. Major Sarah Chen had not slept in 36 hours. The secure facility beneath the Rockies hummed with activity. Scientists poring over Zixtral's data core, military strategists modeling defensive scenarios, diplomats drafting unprecedented first contact protocols. She found Zixtral in the makeshift xenobiology lab, suspended in a nutrient bath Dr. Warrington had formulated based on the alien's biochemistry. Electrodes monitored the ambassador's vital signs while they absorbed nutrients through specialized membranes. "Your hospitality is unexpected," Zixtral said as Chen entered. The alien's voice carried differently through the liquid medium, more resonant, with harmonics human vocal cords couldn't produce. "Is that why you risked everything? You expected us to kill you on sight?" Zixtral's bioluminescence flickered in patterns Chen was beginning to recognize as thoughtfulness. "The Concordat doesn't understand death the way humans do. Our species reproduce through parthenogenesis, each of us containing genetic material from hundreds of ancestors. Death of an individual is merely a pruning of possibilities. Yet you fear genetic dissolution as punishment for treason. To be completely unmade, yes, that we fear." The alien shifted in the suspension tank. "Your willingness to risk individual death while fighting to preserve your genetic line fascinates the Concordat. It's illogical by our standards." Chen pulled up footage from the data core. Concordat scientists analyzing human warfare throughout history. The clinical detachment in their assessment was chilling. "They've miscategorized you," Zixtral observed. "The Concordat taxonomy places humans as aggressive expansionists because your technologies advance rapidly during conflict." "They're not entirely wrong," Chen admitted. "No, but they miss crucial variables." The alien's limbs performed that untranslatable gesture again. "After studying your entertainment archives last night, I believe I've identified what they overlooked." Dr. Warrington entered, carrying biological readouts. "Ambassador Zixtral should rest," she admonished, but her eyes betrayed curiosity. "What did they overlook?" Chen pressed. "Your capacity for multiple simultaneous truths." Zixtral's inner membranes fluttered, their equivalent of blinking. Concordat species evolved toward consensus. When we disagree, one perspective must be incorrect. Humans maintain contradictory positions within a single mind. Cognitive dissonance, Dr. Warrington supplied. "More than that," the alien continued. "Last night I observed what you call fiction. Specifically, narratives about human-alien conflict. In many, humans were both aggressors and victims, heroes and monsters. The same work contained pride in human exceptionalism alongside shame for human cruelty." Chen nodded slowly. "And Concordat species don't create art that criticizes their own kind. It would be considered a symptom of neural dysfunction," Zixtral admitted. "What you call self-reflection, we might diagnose as identity fragmentation. It's why the Concordat finds your species so unpredictable, and therefore dangerous." A military aide entered, handing Chen a tablet with urgent dispatch markings. Her face remained neutral as she scanned the contents. "Deep space telescopes have confirmed it," she said quietly. "The Concordat fleet, exactly where you said they'd be." Zixtral's skin darkened. "Then you believe me now?" "Some do. Others think you're laying groundwork for a more complex deception." Chen's eyes met the alien's compound gaze. "That's human cognitive dissonance in action. We're simultaneously preparing for peace talks and extinction-level war. How do you function with such contradiction?" Chen's smile was grim. "That's what the Concordat doesn't understand about us. We don't just function with contradiction. We evolved to thrive on it." She set down the tablet. "Adaptability isn't just our strength. It's our essence." "Then perhaps," Zixtral said softly, "there is hope. Not just for Earth, but for the Concordat as well." Dr. Warrington checked the alien's vitals. "Ambassador, you mentioned the Concordat finds our entertainment disturbing. What specifically triggered their decision to attack now, rather than continue observation?" Zixtral's bioluminescence pulsed rapidly. They intercepted your global data networks last year. It wasn't your weapons that terrified them. The alien's translator conveyed something like bewilderment. It was your games. The converted missile silo now served as the command center for Operation Paradox. Screens displayed countdown timers. 18 days, 7 hours until the Concordat fleet entered Earth's solar system. Major Chen stood before her assembled team. Dr. Rita Sato, former FBI hostage negotiator. James Wu, 3-time World Series of Poker champion. Dr. Eleanor Mbeki, behavioral economist specializing in game theory. And Manuel Ortiz, Tony-winning theatrical director, an unlikely group to save humanity. The Concordat expects us to respond in one of 2 ways, Chen explained, gesturing to the holographic projections of potential battle scenarios. Either surrender immediately or mount a conventional desperate defense. Which is why we'll do neither, Dr. Mbeki interjected. She projected a complex decision tree onto the main screen. The Concordat evolved without predators or resource competition. Their decision-making algorithms are optimized for cooperation, not conflict. Wu shuffled a deck of cards absently, so they can't bluff or recognize when they're being bluffed. Precisely. Chen nodded. And that's our edge. In the adjacent laboratory, Zix Troll sat connected to neural monitoring equipment while Dr. Warrington analyzed the data. The alien's biochemistry showed unprecedented patterns. You're experiencing heightened synaptic activity, she noted. Is this causing you discomfort? Not discomfort. Expansion. Zix Troll touched the neural sensors. My species' consciousness evolved toward consensus. Disagreeing with the Concordat verdict required neural pathways my kind rarely use. Every day among humans strengthens these pathways. Dr. Warrington made notes. You're literally rewiring your brain by being exposed to human thinking. Yes, it's considered dangerous in Concordat medicine. Zix Troll's skin shifted to a contemplative purple. We have a concept similar to your addiction. Some early contact specialists experienced irrevocable neural divergence after prolonged exposure to non-consensus species. Chen entered, carrying a tablet displaying tactical simulations. Ambassador, we need your input on Concordat communication protocols. An observation first, Major. Zix Troll's translator lilted with something almost like humor. You've assembled experts in deception, emotional manipulation, and dramatization. By Concordat standards, you're preparing psychological warfare. By our standards, we're preparing diplomacy, Chen countered. Advanced diplomacy. Zix Troll made that now familiar untranslatable gesture. The distinction exists only for humans. In the main chamber, Dr. Sato ran a simulation with the team. We're not working with rational actors as humans understand rationality, she explained. The Concordat defines rationality as consensus-seeking. Individual survival is secondary to collective harmony. Wu leaned forward. So we show them the ultimate bluff, that humans value harmony enough to risk individual extinction defending it. Ortiz, who had been silently observing, spoke up. It's not enough to tell them. We have to show them. He projected footage he'd compiled, clips of human sacrifice in extreme situations. Parents risking death for children, soldiers for comrades, activists for causes. Humans don't just die for self-preservation. We die for ideas. Exactly, Chen said. The Concordat believes our unpredictability makes us dangerous. We need to show them that our unpredictability makes us necessary. Alarms blared suddenly. Armed personnel rushed into defensive positions as emergency lights flashed. What's happening? Dr. Mbeki demanded. General Wang burst in, face grim. The Concordat fleet has accelerated. New arrival estimate. 36 hours. A stunned silence fell over the room. That's impossible, Zix Troll whispered. Even with fold space technology. Apparently not, Huang replied. Did you mislead us, Ambassador? No. Zix Troll's skin paled to almost translucent. They must have deployed prototype drives. Experimental technology, deemed too dangerous. The alien's voice faltered. They're sacrificing safety protocols. The Concordat fears you even more than I realized. Chen steadied herself against a console. So much for 3 more weeks of preparation. Perhaps it's fitting, Six Troll said quietly. You wanted to demonstrate human adaptability. Now you must live it. Chen looked around at her team. The world's best hope compressed into a handful of specialists and 1 alien defector. The Paradox Protocol just became a crash course. She straightened her uniform. Everyone gets some rest. In 12 hours, we implement Phase 1 against an enemy that's literally breaking its own rules to destroy us. And if it fails? Dr. Warrington asked the question no one else would. Chen's smile was razor-thin. Then we give them exactly what they fear most, humanity with nothing left to lose. The atmosphere in Earth's hastily assembled Joint Defense Command was electric with tension. Representatives from every major military power huddled around holographic displays as the Concordat fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system, precisely as predicted, but horrifyingly ahead of schedule. What no simulation had prepared them for was the fleet's sheer beauty. The ships emerged from fold space like crystalline sculptures, arranged in mathematical perfection. No wasted movement, no redundant positioning. A display of coordination that made Earth's scattered defensive positions look like children's toys. My God, whispered the NATO Supreme Commander. They move like a single organism. In many ways, they are, Zix Troll explained. The alien stood anxiously beside Chen, now dressed in a specially designed environmental suit that mimicked Earth military uniforms. A psychological touch suggested by Ortiz. The fleet captains share partial neural linkage during combat operations. Chen adjusted her communications earpiece. And that's their weakness. They can't conceive of deliberately breaking formation or acting against consensus. The main screen flickered as Admiral Voxmurin's transmission came through. Unlike Zix Troll's translucent exoskeleton, the Admiral's carapace was midnight blue with ceremonial gold patterning around their sensory organs. The effect was both beautiful and terrifying. The exchange proceeded exactly as they had predicted, demands for surrender, accusations of treachery against Zix Troll, threats of extinction. Chen's scripted laugh produced the expected confusion. What they hadn't anticipated was Voxmurin's response to Earth's strategic weapons deactivation. The Admiral's upper limbs performed a complex gesture that caused Zix Troll to gasp. What is it? Chen whispered. That's the ceremonial signal for mercy killing, Zix Troll replied, voice tight. They believe you're offering surrender through incapacitation. In Concordat culture, it's considered honorable to accept defeat gracefully. Before Chen could respond, the Concordat demonstration strike vaporized Henderson Island in the South Pacific, uninhabited as intelligence had confirmed, but the precision was terrifying. Clean molecular disintegration. Not even debris remained. Now, Chen ordered. Around the solar system, pre-positioned explosive arrays detonated in precisely calculated patterns. Not close enough to damage the Concordat ships, but close enough to demonstrate targeting capability. What happened next wasn't in any simulation. Admiral Voxmurin went rigid. The command staff behind them froze in identical poses. For 13 agonizing seconds, no one moved. What's happening? General Huang demanded. Zix Troll's skin pulsed rapid patterns of blue and violet. Neural shock. They're trying to process contradictory information. On screen, Voxmurin's posture suddenly relaxed. When they spoke, the translator conveyed a tone none of them had heard before from the Concordat. Uncertainty. You demonstrated weapon capability asterisk after asterisk deactivating defenses. This sequence contradicts all tactical doctrine. Chen activated the script Dr. Mbiki had prepared, but Zix Troll touched her arm, stopping her. Let me, the alien said. Then, to Admiral Voxmurin. Observe, Fleet Commander. Humans deactivated their weapons to demonstrate trust, then activated distant explosives to demonstrate capability. They showed both vulnerability and strength simultaneously. The command crew behind Vox Marin visibly struggled with this concept. One officer's exoskeleton darkened almost to black, their equivalent of extreme distress. Impossible, Vox Marin finally responded. These are mutually exclusive tactical positions. Not for humans, Zix Troll replied. This is what I've been trying to explain to the Council. Humans operate on paradox. Their entire evolutionary strategy is built on maintaining contradictory positions. The Admiral's sensory appendages flattened, a sign of agitation. This changes nothing. Preparation for primary extinction sequence continues. The transmission cut abruptly. In the silence that followed, Dr. Seto checked readings from the sensors monitoring the fleet. Their formation is experiencing microscopic variations. Ships are maintaining position, but the perfect symmetry is fracturing. Chen nodded grimly. Phase 1 complete. They're confused, and confusion leads to curiosity. For a species built on certainty, that's revolutionary. She turned to her team. Prepare Phase 2. Let's show them what human contradiction really looks like. The Cyber Operations Center 3 levels below the main command post hummed with focused energy. Dr. Osei stood surrounded by the world's most brilliant hackers, recruited from both government agencies and, more controversially, from among former adversaries. Russian, Chinese, Iranian, and American cyber specialists worked side by side, their past conflicts momentarily forgotten. They have no concept of firewalls, a young woman with faded blue hair explained, scrolling through lines of Concordat code. Their networks are designed for transparency and information sharing. Authentication exists, but it's based on biological signatures, not passwords or encryption. Because they evolved without deception. Dr. Osi nodded. No need to hide information from your own kind if everyone shares the same goals. Zix Troll observed in silent fascination. The alien had never seen anything like this collaboration between former enemies. Your governments allow this sharing of classified cyber capabilities. Allow is a strong word, Chen replied, entering with fresh intelligence briefings. Let's say extinction is an excellent motivator for temporary cooperation. On the main screen, the infiltration's progress glowed green as Earth's systems penetrated ever deeper into the Concordat network architecture. The code, a hybrid of Earth programming languages and adapted Concordat protocols, moved like water-finding cracks in stone. We're in, announced the Russian specialist. Access to their information distribution system achieved. Chen nodded to Dr. Mbiki, who had been preparing the content package with Ortiz. Begin Phase 2. Throughout the Concordat fleet, personal data terminals activated without command. The carefully curated content began streaming directly to every crew member, not as an attack, but as an invitation. Aboard the flagship, junior sensor specialist Mirtal stared in confusion at their terminal. Instead of the expected fleet updates, they found themselves watching Earth children releasing rehabilitated wildlife back into natural habitats. The footage shifted to monument dedications for past conflicts, then to international athletic competitions where former enemy nations competed peacefully. Most disturbingly beautiful was the music accompanying the images, compositions that began in dissonance before resolving to harmony, mirroring the visual narrative of conflict and reconciliation. Mirtal should have reported this unauthorized transmission immediately. Instead, they watched, transfixed. Back on Earth, real-time analytics showed the spread of the information package throughout the fleet. Heat maps displayed increasing engagement as more crew members accessed the content. They're curious, Zix Troll observed. A dangerous trait in Concordat culture. Why dangerous? Chen asked. Curiosity implies individual preference, a path away from consensus. Zix Troll's skin rippled anxiously. For a shared mind species, individual divergence threatens the whole. In the command center, Dr. Warrington burst in with urgent biometric data. The Concordat crew is experiencing unprecedented neural activity. Their equivalent of dopamine and oxytocin levels are spiking in response to the human art forms. They're feeling empathy, Chen realized. Worse, Zix-Troll whispered. They're feeling individuality. On screen, Admiral Vox Marin's furious countermeasures appeared in real time. Orders to disable personal terminals, mandatory neural realignment protocols, threat of genetic review for any crew exhibiting information contamination. But the damage was done. For the first time in recorded Concordat history, a disagreement erupted on the command deck. Sub-Commander Krelvos questioned the shutdown order directly, an act so unprecedented the neural link between officers temporarily severed in shock. Restriction creates curiosity. Wu observed from his monitoring station, the poker champion recognizing the patterns of repression and rebellion. Classic Streisand effect. This wasn't in your simulations, Zix-Troll noted, watching the spread of dissent through the fleet. No, Chen admitted. This is better. The alien's translator conveyed something like awe. You're not trying to defeat them militarily. That was never the plan. Chen's eyes remained fixed on the monitoring screens. We're introducing them to the one human trait they've never experienced. Which is? Chen turned, her expression both compassionate and determined. The freedom to disagree with your own kind, and still remain part of them. On the main display, Admiral Vox Marin ordered preparation of the fleet's primary weapons systems. The extinction sequence had begun, but for the first time, it proceeded without perfect synchronization. The stealth craft slipped through space like a ghost, its hybrid propulsion system leaving no thermal signature for Concordat sensors to detect. Inside, Major Chen checked the environmental seals on her tactical suit, while Zix-Troll made final adjustments to their neural disruptors, devices designed to mimic Concordat biological signatures. These won't fool a direct scan, the alien warned, fitting the device to Chen's temple. But passive security systems should register us as maintenance drones. The small infiltration team, Chen, Zix-Troll, Dr. Sato, and 2 Special Forces operators, reviewed the holographic schematics of the Concordat flagship one last time. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity, yet perfectly aligned with the Paradox Protocol's core principle. Do what the enemy considers impossible. Approaching docking umbilical, Lieutenant Park whispered from the pilot's seat. Concordat vessels don't have traditional airlocks. Their ships are semi-organic. The hull will form a temporary seal and opening when it detects Zix-Troll's diplomatic access codes. If my codes still work, the alien added grimly. Chen checked the specialized data package secured in her suit's inner pocket. Earth's ultimate weapon, though it contained no explosives or conventional armaments. Concordat ships have no internal security cameras, Zix-Troll reminded them. Their species evolved with partial telepathic awareness. They always know when someone unauthorized is present. Then we'll have to become authorized, Dr. Sato replied, activating her neural disruptor. The craft drifted toward a maintenance access point on the flagship's underside. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, responding to Zix-Troll's transmitted codes, a section of the crystalline hull rippled and formed a perfect circular opening. Still recognized as a diplomat, Zix-Troll's skin flushed with relief. They haven't had time to update their security protocols. Inside the Concordat vessel, the atmosphere was unlike anything the humans had experienced. The corridors pulsed with bioluminescent light that seemed to flow rather than shine. The walls themselves appeared semi-fluid, with subtle patterns moving beneath translucent surfaces. They encountered their first Concordat crew member at an intersection of 3 passages. The alien, smaller than Zix-Troll, with more delicate appendages suggesting a technical specialization, barely glanced at them. The neural disruptors worked. To the crew member, they registered as expected maintenance personnel. Their ship design reflects their psychology, Dr. Sato whispered as they moved deeper into the vessel. No doors, no barriers, no private spaces. Everything flows into everything else. Just like their minds, Chen observed. What they hadn't anticipated was the emotional atmosphere aboard the ship. Even without telepathic abilities, the humans could sense the tension. The usual harmonious operations had clearly been disrupted by Earth's information campaign. At a junction leading to the central communications hub, they encountered a sight Zix-Trull claimed was unprecedented. Two Concordat officers in visible disagreement, their appendages moving in contradictory gestural patterns, their exoskeletons flushing different colors. "They're arguing," Zix-Trull translated quietly, "about the ethics of extinction-level response to a non-aggressive species. Phase 2 worked better than we hoped," Dr. Sedum noted. They slipped past the distracted officers and approached the communication center, a vast chamber where the ship's neural network physically manifested as crystalline structures rising from the floor to the ceiling, pulsing with light and information. "Now comes the hard part," Chen said, removing the data package. "We don't destroy their communications. We enhance them." She placed the quantum storage device against the central crystal column. The interface, designed based on Zix-Trull's specifications, glowed as it connected. "Uploading now," she whispered. Throughout the ship, every display surface, every personal terminal, every communication channel suddenly filled with the images that humanity had chosen as its true defense. Not weapons or threats, but windows into human life in all its contradictory beauty. Chen nodded to Zix-Trull, who stepped forward into the center of the chamber. The alien's skin rippled through a spectrum of colors before settling on a deep, resonant blue that none of the humans had seen before. "What is that color?" Chen asked softly. "We have no word for it in your language," Zix-Trull replied. "The closest translation might be enlightened dissent." The flagship's bridge erupted in sensory chaos. Vox Marin stood at the command podium, appendages twitching as contradictory reports flooded in from across the fleet. Illumination panels flashed discordant patterns as the ship's semi-organic systems reflected the crew's fracturing consensus. "Neural cohesion failing in sectors 3 through 17, reported a communications officer, their exoskeleton pulsing distress patterns. "Request emergency realignment protocols." "Denied," Vox Marin responded. "Maintain extinction sequence preparations." When Sub-Commander Krelvos physically intervened to prevent weapons activation, even Vox Marin's rigid discipline momentarily faltered. In 300 years of command, they had never witnessed such a breach of hierarchy. "You question direct orders during combat operations." Vox Marin's voice carried a harmonic the translator struggled to interpret, something between bewilderment and rage. "I question extinction without dialogue." Krelvos replied, appendages steady. "The human broadcasts contain multiple verifiable historical instances of their species, choosing restraint after achieving military dominance." "Irrelevant. Council consensus is absolute." The Council observed data. "We are witnessing reality." Krelvos gestured to the screens surrounding them, now displaying human life in all its complexity. "Look at what they've chosen to show us. Not weapons, not threats. They're young. They're healing centers. They're restoration of damaged ecosystems." The bridge doors slid open as Major Chen entered with Zix-Trull. Security personnel hesitated, their weapon appendages extended but not activated. The first time in Concordat history that a security response wasn't executed with perfect synchronization. Chen stepped forward unarmed, her posture deliberately non-threatening. "Admiral Vox Marin, I am Major Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Command." "Infiltrator," Vox Marin's appendages signaled alert patterns. "You breach our vessel during extinction preparations. This confirms human aggression." "Does it?" Chen asked. "We entered your flagship, the heart of your fleet, and brought no weapons. We could have sabotaged your systems. Instead, we expanded your information access." Security personnel looked to each other in confusion. Their neural linkage, designed to ensure perfect coordination, was experiencing individual variation for the first time. In that moment of hesitation, Zix-Trull moved to the center of the bridge. Their exoskeleton now radiated that profound blue, the color of enlightened dissent, visible to every Concordat crew member. The humans could have disabled our weapons, Zix-Troll announced, voice resonating with harmonics that bypassed the translator entirely. The Concordat crew felt rather than heard the truth vibrating through their partial telepathic connection. They chose understanding over victory. Vox Marin's posture shifted microscopically, the first indication of uncertainty in the Admiral's perfect bearing. The Council's decision was made in ignorance, Krelvos interrupted. The Council didn't experience what we now experience. Throughout the fleet, the chain reaction accelerated. The partial telepathic connection that ensured Concordat unity became the very medium through which dissent spread. Each crew member who questioned orders influenced those connected to them, creating cascading ripples of individual thought. When the injured security officer fell during the brief power struggle, Chen's immediate medical response, treating an enemy combatant without hesitation, created a cognitive break impossible for the observing Concordat personnel to reconcile with their understanding of aggressive species behavior. On the neural monitoring screens, the perfect synchronization patterns that had characterized Concordat operations for millennia fractured into clusters of related but distinct activity, unity without uniformity. Vox Marin stared at the displays, witnessing the unthinkable. Then, with ceremonial precision, the Admiral performed the gesture of suspended consensus, an ancient protocol never before needed in military operations. I invoke Article 7 of the Concordat Charter, Vox Marin announced formally. When consensus cannot be achieved, independent assessment is mandated. Chen caught Zix-Troll's eye. The alien's translator quietly provided context. They're calling for a ceasefire, the most significant concession possible in their culture. For the first time since the crisis began, Chen allowed herself a moment of genuine hope. Perhaps, she said softly, there's a third option beyond victory or destruction. Yes, Zix-Troll replied, skin shifting to a new, unprecedented pattern. Co-evolution. The landing ceremony at Kilimanjaro International Spaceport marked humanity's formal entrance into galactic society. Earth's disparate nations had spent the 3-month diplomatic preparation period in unprecedented cooperation, recognizing that internal divisions now seemed trivial against the backdrop of interstellar relations. The crystal-hulled diplomatic vessel descended with mathematical precision, its transparency no longer a design aesthetic, but a profound statement of intent. As the ship settled onto the landing pad, its hull briefly rippled like water before solidifying again, living technology responding to new environment. Colonel Chen, newly promoted and appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Concordat, stood at the forefront of the welcoming delegation. Beside her, representatives from every UN member nation formed a mosaic of human diversity. The ship's hull parted without scene or sound. First to emerge was Zix-Troll, transformed from traitor to visionary in Concordat hierarchy. The alien's exoskeleton now bore ceremonial markings that hadn't existed 3 months earlier. The newly created insignia of evolutionary diplomat. Behind Zix-Troll came 7 Concordat representatives, each from a different member species, another unprecedented change in their protocols. Traditionally, the Concordat presented only one spokesperson to represent perfect consensus. This diverse delegation physically embodied their new approach. "Welcome to Earth," Chen said formally. "We are honored by your trust." Zix-Troll stepped forward. "The honor belongs to the Concordat. You showed us a path we couldn't see ourselves." The public ceremony proceeded with carefully choreographed exchanges of symbolic gifts and formal recognition of diplomatic status. But it was the private meeting afterward, in a conference room overlooking Mount Kilimanjaro, where the true significance of the moment emerged. "The Vulnerability Pact represents more than alliance," explained Elder Kinvos, the Concordat's most senior philosopher. "For 300,000 years, the Concordat evolved through addition only, incorporating species who already fit our consensus model. You're the first species to change us, added another representative, their iridescent carapace shifting colors with each word. Rather than conform to Concordat standards, you've expanded what those standards can include. Chen studied the proposed agreement displayed on the table's holographic surface. This technological exchange is extraordinarily generous. Self-interest, Zix Troll clarified. Your medical advances come from healing more wounds. Your energy solutions from preventing resource conflicts. Your environmental restoration from repairing battle damage. These are technologies the Concordat never developed because we never needed them. Until now, Elder Kinvos added, our perfect consensus created perfect stagnation. 300 species, 300,000 years, and our fundamental approaches never evolved. Outside the windows, Earth continued its ordinary business. Farmers tended fields that had once been battlegrounds. Children played in parks built on the foundations of old bunkers. Artists created works processing ancient traumas. The scars of humanity's violent history had become the foundation of its resilience. The Paradox Institute, Chen read from the final clause of the agreement. To be established on Earth. With your permission, Zix Troll interjected. A place where Concordat species can study human contradiction without fear of mural contamination. You still see our thinking as dangerous? Dr. Warrington asked from her position at the science delegation table. Profoundly, Elder Kinvos confirmed without hesitation. But necessary, like controlled exposure to a pathogen to develop immunity. Chen couldn't help but smile at the irony. So we're both a disease and a cure. The most dangerous ideas often are, Zix Troll replied. Their exoskeleton briefly flickered through that distinctive blue of enlightened dissent before settling back to diplomatic neutrality. The signing ceremony was broadcast across Earth and throughout Concordat space. As Chen pressed her palm to the biometric authentication panel, she felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged not just surviving, but understood in a way they'd never been before. After the formalities concluded, Chen found Zix Troll on the observation deck, gazing at Earth's horizon, where day became night in a gradient of colors. You risked everything, Chen said quietly. Your position, your genetic line, your place in Concordat society. Worth it, Zix Troll replied simply. To witness evolution. A communication alert chimed softly. Chen checked the message and looked up with surprise. We just received a request from the Andromeda sector. 3 species with a millennium-old territorial dispute are requesting human mediators. The beginning, Zix Troll said, of something neither of our kinds could have imagined alone. As night fell over Africa, lights bloomed across the continent. Cities that had once been enemies now connected in glowing webs of cooperation. For all Earth's persistent problems, the view from orbit told a story of progress. The Concordat still fears us, Chen noted, watching Zix Troll's subtle color shifts. Yes, the alien acknowledge. But now we fear the right thing.